In chapter 4 of herd mentality, communication within the herd, we talk about a decades-old principle of learning called the principle of repetition. Now, this was developed by the United States Naval Academy, like I said, decades ago, and it simply means this: people learn more and better if repetition is used, meaning if they're exposed to the information multiple times, the chances of them retaining it go up dramatically. Right? I can't think of a time when that's been more complicated and more difficult than right now, right? Where we're in a world where we communicate in 144 characters, where it's all about scrolling, where it's all about texting instead of talking, and everything happens so quickly. I need this information to get to my employees, and I need them to do something with that information. I need them to retain that information in order to be able to improve the workplace, improve the customer experience. I need repetition in order to do that. So let me tell you a technique that I used to use when I was leading inside organizations. The first thing that we would do is we would have 3 repetitions. We would focus on making sure that information went across multiple times. So if we're going to change something, add a new thing up. Hey, you're not going to do this movie, I am. If you're going to add some things and we're going to change some things up, then what we would do is we would do an all-hands meeting. So the first thing was an all-hands meeting, communicate everything out to everybody. Here's what we're going to do. Then after that all-hands meeting, I followed up with an email to every manager, which detailed and bullet pointed all the stuff we just covered in that meeting. Now, with AI today, that's a really simple thing for you to do, because you can take the video that you had and it can pull that thing down and give you the notes and put your email for you. I wish I had that before, but like you have now. Then the third thing I would do is I would personally call every store manager if they were retails, or department heads or managers if it was in a wholesale or corporate environment, and walk through all the information again. Now, I usually waited a day or two before I did that, right? At least 24 hours before I did that part, because the information's been out there twice. I know that they all saw it. I hope they did, because a lot of them are Zoom and remote, so are they paying attention? I don't know. I know they saw my email, how well they read it. I got a read receipt, so I know they looked at it, but did they retain it? I don't know, but that's the second time they've heard the information. And then I went and I talked to them on the phone, and I went through all the information with them again, and then I checked for understanding, asked them questions, what they had. The best part about that third part was that I would hear what was going on now. They had now had 24 hours to process with their employees, with their people that they supervise, and give me feedback and tell me how things are going. Or maybe I missed something in the communication. Maybe I completely had a blind spot in when I was rolling out, and now I found it and I can correct it all within 24 hours. But everybody in that leadership role heard everything 3 times. That repetition is what made the difference. So the principle of learning that we're talking about here is the principle of repetition. People learn more when it's repeated back to them multiple times. Not when you make them watch the same video multiple times. Not when you make them read the email multiple times. When you give them different types of communication. Notice that in that method, what we did is we had an in-person conversation, video, then we had a written conversation with the email, and then we had the verbal conversation with the phone call where we talked about and discussed it before. So if you want to see your employees change, if you want to see that change happen within the organization, and using the right form of communication, follow that principle of learning, the principle of repetition.